Hey, how you doing? I'm doing this video in a new way than I have in the past, so I hope this works out well, but I thought it would be a really good idea to make a video about this one topic, and if you clicked on this, you already know the title of it, but it's if you feel like you're outgrowing your faith, right? And I've had a number of conversations with people, and it's been really, kind of exciting, if you want to say that, that some people feel as though they are losing their faith. And I understand that sounds really quite strange to say I'm excited about that, right? However, the reason is there's a difference between losing your faith and having your faith mature. Now, I'm going to break that down. What does it mean when you say that you feel like you're losing your faith? Well, there's a few ways that we could look at it, but I think the best way we can look at it is actually a staircase. That when you go into a new building or a new house or something, you walk up the stairs and you get to the top of the stairs, no one looks back at steps 1, 2, or 3 and says, "Ha! You're dumb," right? Because steps 1, 2, and 3 helped you to get to the top of the staircase. And I'm of the idea that all throughout our lives, we take the next step in our lives, in our own maturing and understanding of faith and life and existence and all of these things. So there's a progression. But there's something that goes on, and sometimes churches are unhelpful in this sense. Let's say you feel like you're losing faith. Well, are you losing faith, or are you losing the way you looked at God when you were 12? Because if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and you're still looking at God as if you're 12 years old, you're kind of behind the times and where you should be. You should maybe be a little further on the staircase. But sometimes churches and friend groups sometimes really love being at step 5 on the staircase. And when you start to move beyond that, they'll start to try to drag you back. And that's not really helpful, and that's kind of a short-sightedness of the whole staircase. So we can try to sit down and figure out, what does the top of the, quote, staircase of faith look like? But at least for right now, let's pay attention to steps 1 through 5, So if you feel like you're losing your faith, I want to say, good, keep going. But the thing is, remember, you may not be losing your faith. It just might be maturing, and now you have to kind of let go of one view of God or Jesus or Scripture, and now it's time for you to grab onto the next version, or a better version that can integrate into the rest of your life a little bit more easily. So what you're doing may not be actually losing your faith, but maybe a version of it. And it's kind of like a sea creature in one sense. Not that you're like a lobster or something else, but every so often, creatures in nature have to outgrow their shell. They have to shed it off, and that leaves them feeling incredibly vulnerable until they get the next house to live in. Well, maybe you're in that stage and you feel like you're incredibly vulnerable because you just lost all of the previous things that used to hold your faith together. Sit in it. Don't rush it. Because maybe what's coming next will be more spacious, will be able to better, like I said, integrate into your whole life. Maybe you'll be able to see God and the divine in more places and in more people. Because, this kind of took a spin for me when last summer I was presenting a skit in front of like 150 4 or 5-year-olds, right? And I had on this crazy beard and this crazy fro, and I was dressed like a guy that had been stuck on an island for decades, right? This crazy guy. And I'm standing behind the scenes, behind the set, and I'm listening for my cue to come onto stage and do my part of the skit. And while I'm behind stage, in the course of about 45 seconds, I have this whole interior monologue of, what am I doing? I have a master's degree. I went to college for like way more than this. Yet this is how I'm spending my life, is doing these ridiculous skits. And then I had to stop and say to myself, but I'm relating the content to these 5 and 6-year-olds in a way that works for them. And if I had to do skits like that are ridiculous and just kind of say propositional things like God is big or God is kind, right? If I was still doing those types of things for 50-year-olds, that'd be a problem. And you probably say there's something wrong with that faith community, that they're still relating to people like they're on steps 1, 2, or 3 rather than on step 7, 8, 9. So there's 2 things I want to say to wrap this up. Be careful. If you feel as though you are maturing in faith and you're around people that are behind you in maturity, and I use that scare quotes and on purpose, don't insult it. Because yes, maybe some of these perspectives are a little childish, or maybe they are meant for an earlier audience than where you are at in your faith journey. But that doesn't give you the right to insult it, because guess what? You were there at some point. That style of learning worked for you. And actually, in some sense, it helped to get you to where you are. So if you're on step 7, 8, or 9 of a staircase, you really shouldn't be making fun of the first 5 steps, because they helped you to get to steps 7, 8, 9. Make sense? So be careful. You don't want to deny or insult it, but then you also don't want to fixate on it and try to force yourself to stay on step 3, because that's a weird level of denial or fixation. And if you feel like you're in a faith community that's trying to keep you in this one particular position, and you feel as though you've tasted or seen something larger or more beautiful and you need to chase after it, it might be time to move beyond that church or that faith community, or at least say to yourself, I wonder if I can give something to this community and help some other people come a little further in their journey. Because I think we've got rather an impoverished view of what it means to be mature or immature. Now here's the last thing. So be careful of denying or repressing or insulting the earlier stages, but here's the best part. It's a good idea to learn how to transcend, like rise above it, but then also include them. If you're at stage or step 7, 8, 9, it's a really good idea to take the best of every stage ahead of that. So, although I don't understand faith in the propositional or story-based way that I might when I was like 5 or 6, just like those kids, that doesn't mean that I can't still learn from it, that I can't still anchor my life in some capacity in these stories, especially the Old Testament, New Testament. Like, you never really outgrow them, but maybe the way you look at them changes. And it's okay. Let's say you interpret Jesus differently because you've experienced the Christ in a new way, that you've come around to interpreting the Jesus of history a little differently because you've experienced a moment where the Christ showed up today in a very powerful way, and it connects the Christ of today to the Jesus of history, and you realize these two are one and the same, and that they both help you understand each other because they are the same. So if you feel like you're losing faith, good, but it's really a matter of redefine that. Don't look at it as though you're losing. Look at it as if you are maturing, that you're growing. And wherever the questions take you, make sure they take you deeper into the Jesus mystery. And I'm pretty certain that Jesus can handle all of our great questions. And I don't know, maybe there's a chance that the global average of Christianity is that we are on steps 5 or 6. And that's why I really like the great saints and the mystics and the holy fools, the real people that got it. I wonder if they're on like step 14 or 15, and they are really inspiring people when you look at them. So when you meet somebody who seems like, oh my God, like I think they're on stage 14 or 15, pay attention. They have something that they can teach you because they're inviting you further into a mystery. And what I really enjoy is that it's not that the mystery of God is unknowable. It's that the mystery of God is endlessly knowable. That you can learn and keep learning for almost forever, if not beyond forever, right? So I hope this has helped you. And if you feel like you're losing faith, like I said, just take a moment and try to redefine it, because maybe you're not losing it. Maybe it's just time for you to upgrade. Maybe it's time for you to find a larger shell. Maybe it's time for you to ask another level of questions. Maybe it's time for you to sit in mystery a little bit more and be content with not having answers for every single thing. And if you found this to be helpful and you think someone else could find it helpful, feel free to share it, okay? So, thank you for listening. May grace and peace be with you.